Agent Marty signing in. Welcome, my programming allies. So which Linux distribution is the best if you're migrating from Windows to Linux? Linux Mint is the very best Linux distribution that there is. With Linux Mint, you will get your best bang for your buck. That is, you will get your best return of the time you invested into it to the end result of the productivity you get from it. And the reason Linux Mint is the very best Linux distribution there is because right now it's #1 on Distro Watch. So just stick with Linux. We can see here that there's a ton of other Linux distros here. You see we've got Arch. You definitely want to go with Arch if you're coming over from Windows. And the list keeps going on and on. So wow, there's actually a lot of Linux distros here. So we're gonna see if we can ever find this bottom of this barrel. We should. Okay, we're getting close. It says on the web. Okay, there we go. So we've got 304 possible Linux distros. Ignore all that. Stick with Linux Mint. Linux Mint is the very best Linux distro there is. The hardware support for Linux Mint is the very best of all the Linux distributions, and that is because it is the most popular, so a hardware manufacturer like HP would keep Linux in mind over something like Arch that not many people are using. We have an HP printer. It is a DeskJet F4480, I believe it is, and the hardware support for it was quite surprisingly, despite the fact that on forums and stuff like that, we're hearing that there are people having problems with their HP printers. This one worked 100% on 3 different hardware setups we have. So we have we tried it on an HP, and we tried it on an Asus, or however we say it, I mean Asus or whatever, and we tried it on an Acer. So it's 3 hardware configurations that all accepted: Acer, Asus, and HP. And the most surprising thing about all this was that this printer would not work on Windows 10 no matter what we could do. For older printers, some people have said they have had some issues with that, but if you have a fairly recent, within the last 10 years, printer, it should work a-okay. In the driver manager, it does support a wide variety of graphics cards, and getting your graphics driver installed and up and running is as simple as going to the driver manager, clicking install. It's not going to support maybe every card that Windows would support, but for what we use, if you're using a fairly common graphics card, it should support it. The software support for Linux Mint is the very best as well. In the software manager alone, there's 85,000 packages that are currently available, and that's not even counting third-party websites that are not actually listed in here. So there's a ton of other websites out there too, and other software out there. So there's a ton of different packages and software available for Linux Mint. For video players alone, we have found there's at least 50 of them. It comes with default with VLC, which is an open source multimedia player, which works quite good, except there's an occasional glitches where you have flickerage. So we have found that there's also been SM player, works very good for that. And then we've got GIMP, and don't tell the Linux community that I said this, but GIMP, it's GIMPed alright. It takes at least a week for you to figure out at least how to use the paint bucket, use your drawing, your basic tools. It took me at least a week to figure all that crap out. This is the typical learning curve of a user using a brand new program he's never used before. Nice, simple, but steady progress. This is the learning curve of a GIMP user. I mean, it has a ton of features, which is awesome. It's like full-blown features all over the place. So many features you don't know what to do with all of them. But then to use any of them, that's the trick. Trying to figure out all that is, you could spend a good deal of time on that. And user friendliness. Linux Mint is the most user-friendly Linux distro that there is. It's very simple to get yourself set up and to get Linux installed. And once you're inside Linux, the user interface is very kind. It feels very familiar to a Windows machine, and everything works quite nicely on it. The way the system runs is very similar to Windows and very nice to use. It's the typical double click to open up your stuff, and boom, you're going. Nothing too radically different. The right click, pretty much the same way. For the Linux community, a question you do not want to ask the Linux community is which Linux distro is the best. They have a serious issue with that question, and part of it is because they're just, in general, the Linux community is a bit too stressed out. They've been programming on their Linux projects for far too long. 48 hours straight is a bit excessive, and they haven't seen the light of day, and they've got some vitamin D deficiency because they're in their basement or whatever, programming away like a wild man, and they have had one too many cups of coffee to keep them awake. So they're very smart people in the Linux community, so you do want to respect their time too. When you ask a question, you shouldn't ask it like my media player will not play this movie, or my media player is having glitches. You don't want to ask a question like that. You want to say, I'm having trouble with the VLC media player, it keeps flickering when I'm playing a movie. Does anybody know of any help? That would be far better because it's more specific. So in this way, they can help you out because they know you're exactly what your problem is, and then you're not just another guy who's annoying them, and then they actually might get somewhere. So if you're considering migrating from Windows over to a Linux, Linux Mint is the very best, and Linux Mint is just the very best in general for everything and everyday use. So if you guys have any questions, comments about Linux, leave that down in the comment section. And if you guys think that the distro of Linux that you're using is better, leave that down in the comment section. I hope you guys all enjoyed this video. Thank you for subscribing. We sure do appreciate it. I'll see you next video. Agent Marty out.